go. Call the meeting to order at 7:01. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to review last month's meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve it?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right. All those in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. We have a new member to the rec board, Mike Szynski. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. You want to give us a quick 30-second bio about you guys? About you?
Sure, thank you. So I've been a Upper Macungie Township resident for about 40 years now. I live over in the Green Hills subdivision near the Russet Road Park, which we had the grand opening for just last week. I've been an active volunteer for many years. I was on the board of directors for the swimming pool at Cape Brook Green Hills for about 25 years. When I joined, there were like 87 people on the list. Now we have a growing waiting list on that pool. So that was very great accomplishment in bringing that pool around. I'm hoping to help out where I can on Parks and Recreation. I was previously on the zoning hearing board, and I recently actually participated in the comprehensive plan for recreation open space that Simone Collins gave a little presentation on last meeting. So excited to be here and looking to get some good things accomplished.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're glad to have you here. All right. Next, public comment. Sir, do you have a comment, or are you here for spectating?
I had a comment relating to,
Sure. Okay. Why don't you come to the mic, state your street address and first and last name, and of course the comment.
my name is Frank McDowell. I live at 5804 Stony Oak Lane. I've been there for
Can you just repeat your name one more time?
Frank McDowell,
McDowell.
McDowell.
Thank you.
At any rate, I've tried to not be obnoxious in my presence because by and large, I don't have a tennis player. So, of the interested tennis players in the community, I was kind of picked by the short straw approach of things. And I thought it'd be worthwhile just bring to your attention that we'd like a little bit more attention on the courts, specifically Blue Barn. It's happening 2 doors down from me, but that's neither here nor there. They're not as safe as they could be.
They're not as what?
They're not as safe as they could be.
Can you give an example of the state, or what's that?
Well, when you look at the fencing around it, people run into them, slide up near them, they can get injured. Actually, I had an event like that once, many years ago. It had nothing to do with being here, but I know fences can be a problem. Actually, with the finger very badly fixed. That was because I was doing young people's things and actually hurt myself. But in this case, there's holes in the fence, things like that. I have pictures here if you want to see some. But most significantly, aside from safety, the equipment itself, meaning the nets, which look like they may have been replaced recently, they've been in disrepair. So the surrounding fence falls are out at will. Even had occasion once where the maintenance crew, brand new ball went out, ran over with the more. Just coincidence. It doesn't mean that he's a bad guy, but it's not his fault that the fence doesn't contain the balls. The gates they're not really serviceable. There's 2 gates for those courts.
You're talking about the entrance and the exit,
Entrance and exit gates.
and they don't lock, or they swing open, or
They don't function. You can't lock them.
okay.
So even if the city thought they wanted to actually lock them physically, they couldn't do that. There are communities I've lived in where sometimes they do that. resurfacing, maintenance, something's going on. But that's not even a big an issue. I wouldn't expect that here. I just would be inclined to think that gates that open, close, latch, open, close, latch. And I just think that generally, because there are only 3 courts and there's a lot of brand new pickleball courts, tennis guys, it would be helpful to get a little love from the community for their interest. We actually organize ourselves over there just because of the level of play and interest of a lot of the local residents. And there's a significant crowd up there. You may not even tell by just driving by because you get all sorts of people. But there's a regular group of people, most of whom, aside this guy, and there's probably more. So rather than just wait around forever, because this is actually goes back a few months already, given that the winter months just passed, you know, it didn't make sense to come charging in here and talk about doing something you can't do in the dead of winter. They're serviceable at this point. Observations just made of some of the top line concerns that we have. Be nice if you could double the number too. But that was the extent of what I wanted to just bring to your attention.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, do you ever play at Apple Pond?
Sorry?
You ever play at Apple Pond?
Apple Pond?
Apple Pond Park or Pond or
That's up for,
off of Pack House?
yeah. My friend actually, I've never played on these courts. It's 8 court. There's 1 court. Just one
Oh,
court.
sorry, Cape Court. Yes.
It's 8 court. I've gone up to Ricky Ridge Park a lot.
Okay.
It's 2 courts there. And coming back to Blue Barn, the nets look like they've been snugged up and tightened. I try to avoid trying to do repairs, so I don't want to do something that would be, you know, against whatever standards you would have for maintaining the equipment. Because I'm talking about cutting out their coat hangers and taking care of stair strap in my bag. At any rate, wanted to leave that. I was actually trying to get this to Matthew Bernard. I don't know him personally. Well, as it happens, I've spoken to one of your minions, Ryan Griffin.
Man, you hit the lottery today. You found everybody. Yeah. He's checking out my opinion.
Take a moment, take a look at this, ask questions, make observations. We did have a conversation. And I understand there's a process and things are probably in the docket at some point to get done. Since you joined, please help us. Probably don't know. Try to help you out. But that was the extent of it. I wanted.
Gotcha. So other question, do you ever experience like overcrowding where you can't play or?
It does happen. That's happened all the numerous decades I've played the game. Coming out of the 70s, 80s years, I don't care where you went. Tennis was so popular, it was standing room only. You know, I used to play on courts where you would have to do what's called racketing the court. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That type of approach. Fist fights would break out and all that goes with that. It would be nice to have more courts. Right now, it's just more about upgrading or maintaining the ones that are here.
Gotcha. Another question, do you have any issues with people playing pickleball on the tennis courts?
Not as much now since the new courts were built. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't play tennis. Now, it's maddening for us tennis players because, in the interest of a dual purpose type situation, we put pickleball lines down. Of course, it's lined out for tennis courts. The problem with that is there are times when I'm playing, other guys experience this too. You're not sure what line to call. I mean, you know the lines, but it can be a visual confusion. So it's nice if they control it, because they did change it out of the control of Ricky Ridge. This is great. So I started, do you have some other questions?
Okay. No. Just so for the record, so I'm the chairman for the Parks and Rec Board, so I'm a volunteer. And then Ryan Griffiths, he's the go-to person for anything Parks and Recreation. He's the Parks and Recreation director for the township. So he's technically probably the best person to go to. And if for some reason he was ignoring you, then you can always come to the board, or you can always come to the board either way. So you did it the right way. I was just clearing it up. He's not my minion. Now he's going to beat me up in the parking lot.
Nope.
He made that comment.
And just to speak a little bit since the conversation, I know we did have tennis has come up in our board meetings the past couple of months. As far as the township, we've evaluated, taken a look at, obviously we have 3 locations, Apple, Ricky, Ridge Park, and Blue Barn. Total number of tennis courts, we are at 6 total for the township. We will evaluate that across the benchmarking that we're getting with our comprehensive park rec open space plan. That tells us where we're at in number of amenities compared to comparable size communities. We've also had initial conversations with USA Tennis Middle States Association about grant funding opportunities and things that go with that, what that all entails. It is a match grant system, which means we would have to allocate money as well, in addition to hopefully receiving grant funding. So it is something that is on our radar. It's not an overnight fix, but it's things we can take a look at, and it is in front of this group to address. I will also say, just like the pickleball group, I will gladly set up time to come out to Blue Barn and sit and talk. A couple of weeks ago, I did that with pickleball over at Grange and spent about an hour and a half of listening to wish list and wants and challenges and concerns. And I will continue to do that with other groups that are here with Parks and Rec. Listening to hear what groups need and want. I've only been here. I only get to use this excuse for about another 6 weeks. I've been here less than a year, so I got some catch up to do about the history and understanding how things came to be. So, but no, I appreciate you coming before us to address it, keep it in our minds, keep it in front of it, so we can take a look at it and see what we can do.
So I think,
Just a point of reference. You sit about half a dozen years on a planning commission. I can do this. So I feel for how some of this stuff flows and goes.
Mhm.
So,
yeah, the safety concerns you mentioned, it's something I think that we need to look at and address that. Jim, I don't know if you've had a chance to go by or not.
The most over there, that's the problem, and a couple of years ago, the residents came and wanted a screen on there. And that part unfortunately was built by the developer. They didn't use the best quality equipment over there. I already replaced all of the posts for the nets, plus the basketball post. So the fence, when we put that netting on over 4 or 5 years, it just bowed out and bowed in and all over the place. So that's kind of I know the gate is broken on the latch, but that's part of the problem with the gate as well. So we were looking at, never replace the whole fencing. But the other issue is now we've been resurfacing the courts, but I don't think there's enough base under it. They're starting to crack. So it's a bigger issue than just fixing the fence, or I think that more or less has to come out and be done
Yeah,
to do it the right way.
right.
Yeah, but he says it's the whole thing.
Yeah, the basketball's probably worse. I don't know if you've seen that. It's got a lot more cracks and there's maybe you probably don't care about the basketball, but I think that's why you guys like the park, because it only has basketball and tennis, so you don't have everything else going on, so it's just a big problem.
I know what you're, it's just the idea of just having that dedicated space, doing what it's supposed to do by perfect design. Because I know in my early years, if you live in here, you used to see the ice hockey guys out there, roller hockey. And of course, they run to fences, they run to the nets, which that's the central part of what makes the game go. Well, that would come down and sag and blah, blah, blah. They're cranking and trying to get them. That's a problem sometimes. Kids will move away, but there's another always coming behind, so it's just the way it is.
Gotcha. Okay. And then before you go, you said you had something to give us?
Oh, I have the actual petitions.
Yeah.
So just as evidence that, yeah, we were concerned as a group of people and just hand this to you. That's quite good.
I'll take care of it. I'll make sure
Well, okay.
copies are distributed for you.
You said they ran into the nets.
Oh, yeah, I've seen
Yeah, I'll
it.
take care of it.
How did they run into the nets?
I mean,
Why?
Why did they do that?
I've been kids a long time, but I have a good suspicion that they just don't care. They're kids. They do kids stuff, you know. Bicycles, the hockey players, they're checking each other, whatever. Yeah, I've seen that too, the occasional present to be left.
So people said they're letting their dogs run around in there.
Little kids on little bicycles, you know. It becomes like a playground.
all right, Frank, we got everything we need from you. Probably at least have something to go on by next month. And Brian also has your contact information as well. He's pretty good with follow up with the tennis community. Did you already follow up with the other woman from?
Apple, yeah, yes.
So we should have so we'll have something to you.
Appreciate your time.
No, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next. Moving on, staff reports, programming and events.
Just to give a quick rundown of our monthly report of where we're at as we transition to our spring summer programming, which fills a lot more than our winter programming. Our Little Athletics spring summer 1 and 2 sessions are both already full. Our tennis lessons that run out of Brookside Country Club with our instructor, we have 61 total participants from ages 7 through 16 plus. We have beginner pickleball sessions as well at 45. Our Mighty Kick soccer program, I just want to give you all the numbers because that is a continuously running program, 6-week cycles all throughout the year. Current registrations through the end of the fall session are at 105. Our CIT and summer camp program, I think the only room we have right now is for a couple CITs at Fogelsville. Jandal and Veterans maxed out their CITs, and all 3 sites are maxed out as well as far as participation. Zumba sessions, 45 in the second spring session. Our outdoor summer is already up to 12. We're finding a location that works for the instructor that but also includes shade and things like that. We originally had thought about the Grange Park basketball courts that presents its own challenges. So we're working on a different location for that program. And then the Youth Fishing Derby we recently had on May 3rd, which was great weather for that day. We had 36 participants. It's our second annual fishing derby. I see that event continuing and growing. As Jim mentioned last month, based on the ponds themselves and the waterway that it is set up, it is not a trout stocking setup. It's I think sunnies and bluegills and other types of fish that we stock it with from a local hatchery. Emily got positive feedback on the trophies we had this year from Crown Trophy. Really, really good addition to that event. So I'm going to skip ahead from the event announcements to kind of give an overview. The second chart I have on here, that is something new this year we installed in our summer camp program. We are actually doing add-on field trips where we will be taking those who register to off-site field trips. We have 5 that are going to run this year. The Crayola Factory in Easton, Da Vinci Science Center in Allentown, Hampton Lanes Bowling Day in Northampton, Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs game, and we're also doing a Lehigh Parkway Day, which includes the Little Lehigh Fish Hatchery, the Native American Museum, Lenape Native American Museum, and Boots and Saddles Horse Riding Club across the street is going to do something with our group as well. We decided to start small. We are having 30 participants per site for a total of 90 kids who are available to take it. And it is an add-on paid registration. So this is not a cost that we as the township or anyone is eating. We're covering our costs to provide bus transportation, the tickets for the various sites, and amenities with the program. Those overall in the first couple of weeks that's been open are the numbers we have for those trips. It is open to all ages of the summer camp. We originally were going to start with older kids, and we listened and received feedback from individuals who had siblings in both age groups that could present a challenge, and we feel confident with our staff that we'll be able to take these field trips for all ages, our 7 through 13-year-olds. We also recently onboarded this past week our summer camp coordinator, Michaela. Michaela was a site lead over at Jandal Elementary for the past couple of years, and she's now going to take the leadership role of running the day-to-day operations of the summer camp. What that does is it frees Emily up to do more programming, more diverse programming, and help us get ready to build for the things that are coming end of this year into 2026 with the community center and other initiatives we're working on. Any questions about the summer camp? Because I know it's a lot I put out there. Also, Grub and Groove at the Grange started tonight, our weekly food truck festival, starting Thursdays from today through the end of September. We had 10 trucks for this evening, a good mix of kind of entrees and desserts, things like Bananarama, Utter Bar, Popcorn Pit, Cone Ice. Steady trickle in from 5 o'clock on, so we're going to gather feedback from the truck, see how it goes. Those I talked to before coming over to the meeting were very happy with the site, the location, the ability to have green space in the pavilion, sit down and eat, access to a bathroom, and we are going to add some musical elements as we progress throughout the summer. Luck of the Draw pickleball tournament is scheduled for this Saturday at Grange Park. We're currently at 55 participants. There is a rain date of the 18th if needed, if we run any weather issues on Saturday. Our first concert in the park is scheduled for the end of the month on Saturday the 31st from 6 to 10 at Grange. Carly Maffa is our headliner, and we're going to have, just like we do with a lot of our other special events, food vendors, our sponsors, beverage vendors, interactive activities. And for this one in particular, I butcher their name from their company, Milospore Scientific, that had the Curiosity Cube last year that we had at the September movie. The Curiosity Cube is coming for 2 days to Grange Park on the 30th and 31st. It's a shipping container converted into a science lab and will be a piece of that event for families and kids to enjoy.
Awesome.
Just a debrief of a recent event. As Michael said, we had the K-Brook Green Hills playground equipment ribbon cutting and movie in the park on Saturday, not Friday, because the rain decided to not cooperate with us. Decent turnout for having a first event come back to a park like that. I think it was a new thing that had not been done in a while, and we had about 100 to 150 throughout the night. My main concern was blocking parking and worrying about overcrowding, which we did not run into, which I was very thankful for. And I think everyone just had an enjoyable time to see the inflatables, to be in the park, to see the new equipment fully in action, and residents coming out and engaging with each other. We have a lot of pictures with people's smiles on their faces. Ribbon didn't work with us with a bunch of kids right away, but once we had a little more muscle to it, it got taken care of. So I think it's really going to be a space that people enjoy, and it doesn't mean we're done. You know, a lot of conversations on site about other things that could possibly happen or wants or needs. And, you know, again, we're open to listening and hearing what went on. And I do thank the board who was there to say a few words and help us cut that ribbon, play Gaga ball in the Gaga pit, get their face painted, you know, eat some food from Donut Envy. And if you stuck around for Toy Story 4, a great time by all.
Awesome. It was a great event.
Yeah, I think everybody had a great time that were there. Ryan, you guys put off a really awesome event. So, and especially I was concerned about the roadway, and you guys did a great job planning out the roadway so that it was a one-way travel, and that was a good addition.
We took a cue from the swim club, so I thank their leadership for reaching out and working to get a game plan, because I know every couple of years they have a giant swim meet with hundreds of participants, and we want to make sure we follow their lead. I do apologize for moving a playground that's going to block their parking in the future for overflow, but I'm sure all the kids will enjoy it during practice and meets. Our next one is at Rickey Park. So like we said, when we planned out the year, our movie series will rotate through parks in the township. So while concerts may be at Grange, our movie series will be rotating around. So you'll see one at Rickey, see one at Bryansville, Lone Lane. Yes, there is one at Grange, but we are moving them around the township.
I think that's good. I think that actually at that event, someone made a comment of why we're not using the other parks. So, and now we know. All right, moving on to old business. Lehigh Valley Cricket Club.
Continue to work with. There's a couple spots with the current pitch construction we're working with to get fine-tuned and topped off. We might have to roll it down one more time before their turf gets installed, and just working with their leadership to nail down all the dates of use and make sure we know we're ready to rock and roll. But short term, as soon as that piece is done, I'm ready to play. And I know our township staff has had conversations of future possible more permanent locations. So we're going to continue those conversations.
Okay, great. The SPYA projects at the wall.
Yep. So the two projects, one's the lighting project over at Grange Park. The other's the walls. Both projects are almost completed. Just a couple final touches that have to be finished up with closing out both those projects.
Gotcha. Moving on to tenant. Oh, Frank's still here. Very quickly, Frank. Another resident was making had some concerns about the courts at Apple Pond Park or Apple Park. So now we're at the section where Ryan's going to provide us with an update.
Nope, it's just continue to look at our inventory, coming up with a list of the things that would need to be upgraded. I know Apple's another one with some cracks and concerns, some fencing, aging equipment. So we're going to take an inventory of everything and then take a look at those grant funding opportunities and build a game plan.
Do you actually prepare the grant? Is that your role?
That is part of my role, yes.
Okay.
So as far as the ETA for that park, do you think we'll have like at least a solid direction by the end of the year, or?
I can prepare kind of like what Frank was mentioning for Blue Barn for all of them before the end of the year.
Okay.
I can't guarantee a shovel or a paver is going to go down, but I will have a game plan.
Okay. Moving on to Hassan Creek, which I just found out I spelled wrong and I set Brian up for failure.
Nope, you're all good. I'm taking a look at a couple of groups that can do a little more than just the markings themselves to try and maybe do a little bit better mapping or see how we can collaborate with some trail making partners to really do it just beyond painting some trees for directional. So give me a little bit of time to continue on that one.
So we're probably not going to make it for this season.
I will work to get paint done. The other stuff will take a little bit longer, but it's a valuable point as we take a look at that area to connect to other regional trail networks and just seeing what we can do to maybe spruce it up and go a little bit better.
Okay, awesome. Anything else for old business? All right, moving on to new business. Mobile vendors in the park.
So I put this one on for new business as we approach the summer, and I know prior to me coming on board, the board had some conversations about updates to park and recreation ordinances in various areas. So I know things came up like grilling or grilling at pavilions, things like that. It's come to our attention a couple of times that we are running into an occasional issue with mobile food vendors in our park facilities. Without going in too specific, it's an issue that is encroaching upon people's enjoyment of the park and to a point of potentially a safety issue. But currently, right now, there's no standalone ordinance for mobile food vending in our parks. We, as township, have create events or invite, just like tonight, a food truck festival, that we go through a process that we know who they are, we know that they are reputable vendors, we have a mechanism to have contact, things like that. There are other municipalities or cities that do have mobile food vending ordinances about their parks in their ordinance system. So I wanted to bring it onto the table to just have more of a general discussion of, is that something myself and Emily should be looking into, report back on? Are there other things within the park and rec ordinance that you as the board would like to advise about, to take a look at? Because changing the ordinance process does take a little bit of time, and we want to make sure we do it correctly.
Yeah.
And I know, sorry, Rush, I know the township as a whole is working with zoning and other ordinances, and this would be something in our chapter 16 for parks and recreation use that we'd want to make sure we're covering and capturing in the proper usage of the parks.
Yeah, I know this issue, like I had two audience. One of our, I don't name the vendor, but what happened is like, we were in the parking lot and we had two pavilions because we need the parking space. We were having 200 people coming. That's the cause. And this guy comes with a big van and just parks in like 10 space and the kids are running around.
Is it a van or a school bus?
It's a school bus. I don't want to name some specific vendors, but that's why I keep it, because I gave a picture to Emily to, it's on the record, so I don't want to name, because we don't have any audience, ordinance to control that, so it's no use of naming people. And then it's like, I have to really request him so many times, please move, because I need a parking space and the kids are running in the parking lot, that's not safe. Because you have something to sell and the kids will run. And then or we need somebody to just guide those kids to, to save the thing, because people are backing in, out, it's like, it was a nightmare. I have to spend an hour and a half in the parking lot, just not to enjoy the event, just to make sure kids are safe. And this guy keep coming back. I called cops twice, and then again, cops not doing anything because it's public park.
So it sounds like it's a good idea to put together an ordinance in regard to what the rules and conditions would be for having these particular vendors and whether they need to be registered or whatever. You would need to, propose something, Ryan, to us.
So it sounds like, yes, Emily and I look forward and bring back some research.
So if it's a small yellow school bus that drives aggressively in the parking lot, I know which one you're talking about. I dealt with him last year and I saw him again this year. He also drives aggressively on the actual road itself.
It was a nightmare. I'm here to enjoy the event, and here I'm guiding the traffic and making sure the kids are safe because they are just running between the cars to get to the vendor. And I said, you're not allowed to park. If you want, you go and park in the pickleball court right across. So that way these kids won't run between the cars to get to you,
Did you at least see a safe serve license posted anywhere?
I will say for our township events, we go through a process to take a look at doing our research with who the vendors are, ask those questions. I will say that, for some mobile food vendors in the township versus the city, with a lack of our own health department, you're at the whim of the state regulations versus a local regulation. But I can bring back what we've already looked at. Number one, what comparable size townships do with this particular issue, and continue the conversation in June.
Yeah, we have to develop some sort of system so that the vendors don't come in. But meanwhile, can we do something? Like suppose somebody ran 3 pavilion, 2 pavilion because they're expecting that much crowd in there. Can we do something to say, okay, well, guys, this parking, because they need parking. If you have expecting 200 people, they don't park. If you don't have a parking space, they won't park on the grass. Then Jim is like, oh, you guys use my grass. So
I can tell you, you're okay. I can tell you as far as, for example, facility usage overall. I've had some conversations with our police chief on how we can communicate when that facility usage is larger things, and so that him and his team are aware as well. So we've had those back channel conversations. So to the point of Raj, like you have 2 pavilions. They can see that on a report somewhere. They know, okay, you're there. This is how many people you have. If an individual or an entity is not with your reserved rental that you have the reservation, they can address it. So we've had some of those conversations recently.
I'm actually going to make a motion that the township create an ordinance for mobile vendors in the park, preferably before the end of the year, if possible.
I second that.
Thank you, Wes.
You're welcome.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
So you're saying that just like a random ice cream truck can be in there?
It's more just making sure who is there. So the thing is, you can just put stuff in your van or your car and drive to the park and sell stuff, and it's not actually legal, and you could be not practicing safe food practices.
But you can do that.
You can, because we don't have an ordinance for it. And then we have an issue with this one vendor that is driving really aggressively in the parking lot and outside the parking lot.
So Ryan, as you put together some thoughts, you can't ban people unless they have some sort of maybe 2 or 3 strikes or something like that. But, think about how you can
Enforcement
weave
issues.
that into the ordinance, okay, that there is some threat to being banned as a result of bad behaviors.
And I will say this question will also come up because keep in mind, we also have a sponsorship package program for the township. So this year we were fortunate enough to have some mobile food vendors who have gotten sponsorships and are invited to events and are going through it the right way. And the question being, those who don't, what happens? So I can tell you it's an issue I've dealt with for a while in other jobs as well. And I'll reference that to make sure we have a solid reference to talk about it in June.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Are there speed limit signs posted at Grange? There are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you saw the guy in person, I saw him from I was running through Lone Lane. I saw him at the entrance. Even though I was at the other side, I knew it was him because of the way he was driving. If you saw him, you'd know exactly.
Yeah,
what
okay,
I'm talking about.
so, that could be enforced by the police, I'm assuming that, if they don't follow the speed limit signs.
All right. Moving on. Design standards.
So just going a little bit out of order here. We are at almost the finish line of our comprehensive park rec open space plan. There are 2 more meetings that will be taking place to get to the hopefully adoption point of the comprehensive park rec open space plan. One, and they're out of order. I apologize, it's been updated since I gave you my monthly report. Saloni Collins will be at the June planning committee meeting, and then we'll be at the July board of supervisor meeting. And that will be the ultimate finish line of it, hopefully adopting the plan through the board of supervisors. But so far to date, we've already been working in the direction towards some of those recommendations. Case in point of signage or official names of parks. We actually am on Wednesday meeting fast signs up at Cape Green Hills Park to start the site prep to put the sign in that we discussed a couple of weeks ago and the board of supervisors approved and are pushing forward. But I wanted to take a look at some smaller stuff that individually is smaller, but when you look at it as a whole, it's going to take some planning over the next couple of years. So when you look at something as simple as maybe a garbage can or a picnic table or a bench, looking at what type we want to be to identifiable in Upper McConkey Township might be different than what North Whitehall would like to see. So while a garbage can, you might think, oh, it's a small item. If you have 200 across the parks, that starts to add up and phasing things in, planning things. So I want to get kind of a guide and start the discussion of, and the one recommendation in the comprehensive park open space plan is thinking about design standards to get that feedback. What I like is a lot different than what others like. So just to start thinking in that kind of direction, whether it's recycled wood picnic tables, metal picnic tables, wood pavilions, metal pavilions. We want to make our parks identifiable to and identify with Upper McConkey Township.
So to build on a comment that Jim made earlier today about the tennis court at Blue Barn, there should be some sort of standard as far as, the fencing, the posts, the thickness of the asphalt that's put in for some of the tennis courts, and that this could be referenced in case, we're going to have other homeowners associations or, groups provide parks for the township. So we should comply with those particular design standards. I think that's a great idea.
And
Unfortunately, years ago, the inspectors and everything out there, it just said we're glad that they got a park.
Yeah, yeah.
20, 30, 40 years ago.
Well, we've got to correct the mistakes of the past, but let's not make mistakes going forward, right?
I think that's a good idea to have builder when they come with a proposal and they say, oh, we have a park, and then okay, do you have a tennis court? Do you have this much depth of asphalt? Or that's a good idea to have it, because that way at least builders can just get away to apply some cheap stuff in the park and then end up in the future with us.
just as an example, Lone Lane Pavilion, We advertise its capacity of 300 people. It's a lot of picnic tables, solid wood picnic tables. The board were to say, well, we like this instead. Well, that's about 35 picnic tables to change at a chunk of change for each one. So for me, planning, I want to make sure whatever direction we go in that I am moving pieces for.
And you could write that as a grandfathering versus a new standards going forward, for instance.
Sure. It's also when I write grants for, let's say, playground equipment, and we want to add benches or seating around it, I want to make sure I specify what bench and what kind and the dollar amount. So it's the same bench that we have at K-Brook that would go in a new one wherever the next playground goes.
Awesome.
Just to think ahead.
So do we need to make a motion to develop these, or is it?
I just brought it up that I'll bring information forward to start the discussions. To, kind of take a catalog, maybe size it down to a couple choices to get feedback and see if we're on the right track, or my design eye is much different than others. And if I'm off track, rein me back in.
So now we're going to design standards?
Nope, that was it.
All right, so now we're not doing looking forward, or that was it?
No, just to look forward is the two remaining meetings. I will also say I've also had a couple of residents call and provide their feedback directly that we're communicating with our consultants. And like I said to Mr. McDowell, phone call, we listen, we hear, we'll schedule meetings, we'll talk and go from there. I'm not going to make promises that I'm going to do exact things here or there, but I will listen and gather and go from what we can and can't do.
Awesome.
So I spent a lot of time on the comprehensive plan and worked a lot on it. But I just wanted to get the feedback of the board here of what do you think of it? What are you looking? Even if some of it doesn't get fully approved or whatever else, there's a lot of good potential items in that particular report. It's a long report, okay, but somehow we need to think about the prioritization of those items that are in there. I don't think we can do them all, okay? It'd be great if we could do them all, but we don't have unlimited funding and resources. And so we ought to think about how we look at that and prioritize which ones make the most sense. Some of them are easy to do, some of them are a lot more difficult to do. So how do we put this into action going forward as a committee here to prioritize these items and think about what we need to be doing for the budgeting process for next year? Some of these particular items may need budget coverage, and also plans to do grant applications for some of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because once we get all the part in the comprehensive plan in place, we think they should divide it yearly, like 2026, 28, we're going to do this items. 28 to 2030, we're going to do this items.
Right.
There should be some timeline for those. Otherwise, you say, okay, this is the plan for 10 years. But after 10 years, we realize that the plan is just sitting in the books. If we don't have something to follow to, or okay, we have a deadline. Every year we are going to achieve this. If we don't achieve, that's fine, but at least we know we didn't do this.
Yeah, we can set some goals or.
Yes, I'll set some goals for every
Yeah.
year, every 2 years, 3 years, at least we're going to develop a new part, first part. Okay, by 2029, we have a first part, which is already in the plan. But I'm just giving you an example. It could be anything, but we should have some deadlines from them, also suggesting from them, like, okay, these are our deadlines, you should feel this, we should feel that these are achievable, looking at the budget, looking at the finances. So that if they give us a deadline, it's fine, otherwise we have to roll it out stuff. What do you think?
Without going into too much detail, because I don't want to give away the final report, that has been in discussion about being a part of the final product that is delivered is a prioritization matrix. In their their opinion.
So let's see what comes out in the opinion. Yeah, that's perfect. I think if they have like set deadlines, set goals, that should be fine. If they don't, then we need to think about it.
And just one area with it, I think in my short time here, I think Upper Makanji is doing a great job of not putting plans just on a shelf and not doing anything with them. I think with Simone Collins being on both the Vision Zero Action Plan and the Comprehensive Park Rec Open Space Plan, and the staff working on those two, we are seeing where those priorities are and how to achieve them. We constantly think of them as we're going through. Hence why the grant application went in. One will be in by May 31st. A DCD grant to do master planning of Lone Lane. That master planning is putting grant funding in to look at a master plan of that individual site. But any scope of master planning for that site, we know safe routes to that site are a major piece of what the public wants to see already. So by putting a grant application in for that park, number one, knowing it's the second most used park in the township, but also two, it's a corridor from the Vision Zero Action Plan that was prioritized. That's why we made that project a grant application. So yes, I fully hear that we cannot make a plan and then put it on the shelf. The other piece about some of the grants, just timeline wise to be aware of, for example, I put in 3 at the end of last year in late October, early November, that I found out a couple of weeks ago were still under consideration, and a decision will be made on them in September at some point. So that's October 2024, finding out in late 2025 if we get it or not. And then by the time to implement, now you're into 2026. So I'm saying that as a timeline to keep that in mind and perspective from that it's not we put a grant in 2 weeks later, yep, you get approved, here you go about it. I will say one of the grant applications was for new playground equipment at Bryansville Park. So if you look at October, put it in, September, make a decision on if we get it or not. By the time you go through, just like we did with the process of the community of which elements, what colors, all of that, now you're into summer 2026, probably fall 2026 to have that completed. So just from a perspective point to understand how long that grant process can take.
Yeah.
And that's for a grant that isn't a match fund. That's straight. You're awarded, here's the money.
Some of these programs are easy to do, okay, that we can probably do with the existing staff and very limited outside resources. Some of them need extensive amount of engineering and a lot of work and support. So when we prioritize them, that's an important consideration too.
So did you come up with a way to prioritize it?
Yes, part of the team, we have a suggestion. We're looking to put them into 3 different buckets. One is buckets that can be done more or less with the existing staff. Next one, which would be, you need some sort of grant, money and funding, but it's not too elaborate. And then there's the third bucket, which is like, we need to coordinate with South Whitehall and this and Lehigh County, and it's a major type of a program. So we're looking to do some sort of prioritization on that. Plus, we got feedback from the community. I think we had over 1,200 responses or comments or something.
1,120.
Okay, 1,100. I exaggerated. Yes. There's certainly a lot of input that went into this particular plan, so certainly does need to be prioritized. So,
Any more public comment? You good? Okay. All right, with that, so I want to make a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make a motion to.
Second it, for sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.